welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Surwick here with Mike Meredith. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man.
Good to hear. We got quite a bit to get to, so let's get right to it. Hopping right away with the NFL Thursday Night Football. The Ravens hosted the Bengals, winning that game 34 to 20. Look, this was a pretty damn bad game for Joe Burrow. Obviously, he went down. I think he's out for the rest of the year now. Lamar Jackson played a pretty decent game in this one, but now Cincinnati's sitting 5-5. Their quarterback's out. Man, not a good weekend here for Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was not. With Burrow being out for the rest of the year, I think that Cincinnati can pretty much chalk up this season. I mean, they had Super Bowl aspirations, and without the QB, man, and being 5-5 of the tough division, I wanted them to bounce back so bad because I really do like their team. I think they have one of the most talented teams out there. But yeah, I think that Cincinnati maybe now they'll start losing some games, maybe get a higher pick. We'll see. But yeah, I think that they are gonna miss the playoffs, sadly.
Yeah, I think they're definitely gonna miss the playoffs, man. And Baltimore just a really good, solid game, really on both sides of the ball for them. Um, that might be one of the best teams in football this year, man. I genuinely believe that. The Lions hosted the Bears, winning that game 31 to 26. The Lions coming back from a 12-point loss in the last 5 minutes to come back and win this game. Um, Jared Goff, three interceptions. Now, granted, I'll give him credit. Only one of those was actually his fault. The other two were tipped balls, so you can't really, you know, do a whole lot about that to fix that. But I'll tell you what, man, Justin Fields, he had a very solid game. And the Lions defense just struggling again against a mobile QB. And, it's just, we can't be doing that if we want to actually go anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, again, the Lions struggle to contain a mobile quarterback. Justin Fields pretty much had a field day. The Bears, to be honest, should have won that game. There was a stat that came out. Teams, when having the ball at least 40 minutes time of possession and the other team having at least three or more turnovers, they were 48-0 coming into this game. Now the Bears made that 48-1. So, that was such a rare win for the Lions. I mean, that was great to see them come back, score those two touchdowns with 4 minutes left in the game. But the Bears outplayed us, man, and that's pretty sad to say that the Bears on the road played a better game than us. We got to definitely tighten some things up moving forward because even though they were resilient and they won the game, it was not a pretty win.
No, it wasn't a pretty win at all. The defense has just been struggling a lot lately. Allowing, Los Angeles to put up that many points last week and then just not being able to contain any mobile quarterback. There's a lot of concerning things, in this Lions defense right now. But the ability to fight back the way they did is great. The Lions from 3-4 years ago would have lost this game easily. But it's just goes to show you how much of a culture Dan Campbell has made here in Detroit. The Browns hosted the Steelers, and they win 13-10. This was a slog. I believe we both picked Pittsburgh in this game. Ultimately, we were both wrong. Dorian Thompson-Robinson did not play a very great game. Kenny Pickett didn't either, for that matter. It was basically all running, especially from Pittsburgh. But yeah, no, it was just a long, slow, played out game, and eventually Cleveland ended up winning this. The time of possession was very small amount of difference between these two teams.
Yeah, it was a really low scoring game, and they had been talking about it for a while, and the Steelers finally fire Matt Canada. So um, we'll see what they do moving forward. I know he was a spot that people were talking about on their team that was not doing so well. So um, we'll see how their offense moves forward without Matt Canada there.
Could move forward, could move backwards. We'll see. The Texans hosted the Cardinals. Texans winning this game 21-16. Um, this was just, it was a good game and a bad game for C.J. Stroud, all mixed up. He had,
Yeah,
three interceptions, but statistically speaking, he still looked really good, despite those. Um, and Singletary looked really good on the ground for them as well. Um, Arizona held them to a lot more points, than I thought they would. That said, you throw three interceptions, it's not going to look. You're not going to score that many points, anyways. But they end up winning the game, which is all that really matters at the end of the day. Just a really good game for Houston altogether, man. It's 6-4 at this week at this point in the season, man. For them, I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they've improved this year.
The Jags hosted the Titans. Jacksonville winning 34-14. I said this was going to be a bounce back week for Jacksonville, and boy, was it. 34-14 over a divisional matchup or a divisional team. Trevor Lawrence looked pretty damn good this week. Will Levis, I'll give credit to him, man. He went 13 for 17 and threw for 2 touchdowns, just with over 150 yards. I knew obviously Tennessee was going to try and do something in this game, different to hold Jacksonville back, and then also just something offensively. They needed to do something, but really offensively they didn't do a whole lot. Very very little bit of possession in this game.
Yeah, Jacksonville had the nice win here. Tennessee still trying to figure some stuff out here with Levis and see how he does moving forward. But yeah, it was a nice bounce back week for Jacksonville.
The Dolphins hosted Las Vegas. Miami winning 20-13. To be honest with you, man, I'm surprised that the score wasn't higher than it was. Tua had a pretty damn good game going, but just the offense would stall a lot in this game. And then Vegas, obviously their offense is just horrible. Aiden O'Connell threw 3 picks in this game. He did not look good at all. But Miami getting the job done. A little bit of a different win at home than we've seen so far this year, but they still remain undefeated at home right now.
Yep, Miami with a nice win. Definitely wasn't as much of a blowout here. It was a closer game for them with the Raiders, but they were able to still pull out the W and get that win at home.
Yeah, all that really mattered for them was getting the W, and they sure got it. Carolina hosted Dallas. Dallas winning 33-10. Look, Bryce Young. I mean, the Keebler elf. He just didn't look good at all in this game. He 16 for 29, 120 yards, man. Just not looking good. Dak had a pretty solid game yet again. Tony Pollard actually had a pretty solid game as well. It was just a basically just another murder of Carolina. I mean, this Carolina team is so bad. 1-9 right now, obviously worst record in the league. I honestly don't see if they're gonna. I don't see them winning a game the rest of this season, man.
Yeah, Carolina is horrible. It's crazy, man. This is probably the worst Carolina team since they went. I think it was like 1-15 and got Cam Newton that year with the number 1 pick. Don't even have their pick this year, so they're not playing for anything. That's even worse, man. When you're playing that bad, and you don't even have anything to look forward to. Just awful play by the Panthers, man. Definitely are regretting that first overall pick. And the Cowboys continue to beat down on horrible teams. So we'll see how both those teams do moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Dallas again beating up on bad teams. That's kind of just their MO. But they we'll see what happens when they actually go and play some real teams later down the line. I think Detroit's going to struggle against them do the mobile quarterback thing. But yeah, man, just it really sucks for the Panthers. I just really wonder what their fan base is thinking right now, just because they have nothing to play to look forward to for next year. And I guarantee you, man, they're regretting picking Bryce Young there. The Packers hosted the Chargers, and the Packers win the game, 23-20. This was kind of slugfest. Jordan Love actually had a pretty solid game. Justin Herbert did as well. I mean, both these guys were pretty even statistically, and yeah, just I thought LA would win this just based on the fact that Green Bay has just not been performing at all this year. But this was kind of a get right game in a way for Green Bay. I know they got really nothing to play for, but it was kind of just one of those games for Jordan Love where he got to finally just reset himself a little bit and actually play some decent football.
Yeah, so the Chargers, they went back to their old habits of blowing the game. I mean, countless drop passes. Quinn Johnson with that awful drop at the end of the game. Brandon Staley saying dumb shit in the press conference. Just, yep, they're back to their old ways, man, where they're just choking games away.
Yeah, it's just a classic Chargers performance there that we hadn't seen in a couple of weeks, but they certainly return. The Commanders hosted the Giants, and the Giants win this one 31-19. This was a big surprise to everyone, but Sam Howell just looked absolutely fucking horrible in this game after playing some damn good football the last few weeks and being the leader in passing yards. Um, Danny DeVito, I mean, Tommy DeVito just had a pretty solid game too, man. He went 18 for 26 and almost 250 yards. It was just a big blowout that really no one saw coming.
Yeah, that was just a crazy game there, man. Seeing the Giants actually win a game, like if there was any argument against Carolina being the worst team, it was probably the Giants. But the Giants win. The Commanders just stunk this week.
Yeah, and then the pick six at the end of the game obviously did not help Washington at all here. But um, yeah, at the end of the day, just you can't be doing that stuff as Washington. I know Washington, obviously they sold everything at the deadline. I expect them to lose games, but to the Giants, come on now. The Niners hosted the Bucks. Niners winning this one 27-14. I called it, on Thursday's episode. I said Tampa's going to lose this game just because San Francisco's back. I think they really are. The defense has been incredible. Obviously, it's only now been 2 games with the addition of Chase Young. But Brock Purdy has been solid. He went 21 for 25 and 3 touchdowns in this game, over 330 yards. And the Niners just continue to just steamroll people now. And Tampa, man, they get back into the losing column, and it's not looking good for their hopes to win this division.
Yeah, the hopes are going down the drain for Tampa. And San Francisco's back, man. They got a big game for Thanksgiving to look forward to. The 49ers do, so we'll see how they continue to keep rolling.
The Bills hosted the Jets. The Bills winning this one 32-6. Look, I called it saying that the Jets were gonna hold Buffalo down this week, but Josh Allen actually played some damn good football for the first time since I don't know, week 5 or so. He just hasn't looked good. Obviously, this Jets offense, continuing to struggle. Zach Wilson played like donkey doo doo. And yeah, man, just a big blowout win for Buffalo. Much needed blowout win. I still don't think they're gonna make the playoffs, but this was one of those games where they needed a win like this, maybe get some things right. Um, and yeah, just a good win for Buffalo.
Yeah, what a crazy win, man, for Buffalo here. Um, and of course, Zach Wilson, man, so trash. The Lions legend Tim Boyle about to be cooking it up in the future games, man. He just got named the starting quarterback, so we'll see how that works out for the Jets offense as they continue to struggle, man.
Yeah, we'll see what happens now with Boyle at quarterback, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference. It's sure is an upgrade from Zach Wilson though, that's for sure. The Rams hosted the Seahawks, winning in a very close game, 17-16. Um, a field goal with I believe it was like 2 minutes left, roughly. Um, Geno Smith had a pretty decent game. Matt Stafford looked awful. I don't think LA should have been anywhere in this game, if I'm being completely honest with you. But Seattle, man, somehow finding a way to lose, which is not really typical of them. I still believe they're not leading the division anymore, but they're still in the wild card hunt. But no, you can't be taking losses, especially to bad teams like the Rams this late into the season. Just not a good look from that Seattle defense whatsoever.
Yeah, I can't believe that Seattle lost this game, man. They definitely looked like they had it wrapped up, and then the Rams just kind of came back and they won it. So Seattle's got a lot to prove, and they got a tough matchup against the 49ers. So we'll see how they can improve and try and go for that division lead. I know them and the 49ers have been battling it out. But yeah, that was a tough loss for them.
Very tough loss indeed. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yes,
Broncos hosted
sir.
the Vikings, winning very narrowly again, 21-20. Um, it was a last minute touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton to win the game for Denver. Russ looking like classic Russ again, 2 weeks in a row now. Is Russ back, man? I genuinely want to know. Do you believe Russ is back, or is he still a bust and he's just playing out of his mind the last 2 weeks?
I think he's like halfback. So like I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think he's as washed as he was last year, or even like some of the games at the start of this year. But I don't think he's back to prime Russ on Seattle. I think he's kind of like gonna be in the middle. I think right now he's confident. He's definitely at least average this year for quarterbacks. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he's been actually pretty solid again. And yeah, man, I'm glad I was able to convince you to change your pick last second last week, man. Broncos country, let's ride. They pulled it off.
Yeah, and I'll give credit. Josh Dobbs played a pretty decent game as well. I don't, like I said, I don't think this momentum for the Vikings is gonna really last long with him. He's not good, but he did play a pretty decent game. And yeah, I am very glad you made me change my mind last second there. I was on the fence that entire time, and then when you said you were gonna take Denver, I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's take Denver. And then last night, the Chiefs hosted the Eagles, a rematch of the Super Bowl last year, and this time the Eagles win it 21-17. Um, this was a very good game from Jalen Hurts. A pretty average game for Patrick Mahomes. He didn't look, spectacular in this game. But this one ended up being a pretty defensive matchup. Both these teams' defense is really good. Um, and I made a prop bet, not a prop bet, but I made a bet before this game kicked off. It was a Kelsey anytime touchdown combined with a DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown and it was like I think it was like plus 330 something somewhere around there, and paid me out pretty damn well in this game. Uh, DeAndre Swift had a pretty solid game, 12 carries, 76 yards, and a touchdown. But yeah, man, it ended up being a really much closer game, lower scoring game than I think anyone really thought as well. It just ended up turning into a defensive game, and Kansas City just their offense, man, just not looking good this year.
No, that was the third straight game where they didn't score a single point in the second half. So they are definitely looking not great, man. Crazy to see. I mean, offense just looks lifeless. And also, let's talk about the play where Jalen Carter almost intercepted the spiked ball, man. That was crazy. If you guys saw that play, man, from that game. But
Yeah, that was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So the Eagles, though, win the Super Bowl rematch. They are 9-1, and Chiefs got a lot to figure out here. The Eagles win the big game.
Yeah, that they do. So that wraps up this weekend's NFL games. So let's get right into the NFL power rankings. Staying at number 10 is the Houston Texans. It was a pretty abysmal game for C.J. Stroud in terms of interceptions. Statistically, though, outside of that, he looked damn good. Houston obviously pulling off a nice W against Arizona in this game. They continue to just impress me, man. They addressed two things on both sides of the ball with their first two picks, and it has paid off wonderfully for Houston.
Yeah, that's a solid placement for Houston right there. I think that number 10, I mean, they're playing like a top 10 team, so I'm definitely cool with them being in the top 10.
Yeah, I think they're a wild card team right now, especially with the loss to for Cincinnati. I believe they are in the wild card now in the AFC. Staying at number 9 is the Cleveland Browns, and they get a pretty solid win here over their division rival in Pittsburgh. It was a tough matchup. It was something that I think Cleveland, they need to figure some things out on offense. Obviously, they don't have Deshaun Watson, so that hurts a lot. But it was a test for them, and they won, and that's all that really matters. They've been playing like a top 10 team so far this year, and they yet again improve. And they're 7-3, which I don't think really anyone really saw happening either.
Yeah, Cleveland, man, they pull out a tough, gritty win, and they've been rolling, man.
Yeah, that they have been rolling a lot this year to start. Staying at number 8 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, nice big win, blowout win over a division rival, extending their lead. Although they're only up only one game over Houston in this division, so pretty close divisional, you know, uh, series between those two, and it's going to be really interesting to see just how this all shakes out. But Jacksonville, they needed a bounce back after last week, and they certainly got it. They got a lot of things right. Granted, it was against Tennessee, so you can't take everything that you saw too seriously, because Tennessee's just horrible. But a good, this is a good spot for them. I think they have been a top 10 team for the most part this year, and well deserved to be at number 8.
Yeah, they fought back this week and had a nice win. Jacksonville, I still think, is the best team in that division, even though Houston is been playing really well. Definitely deserve to be ranked higher here.
Staying at number 7 is the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, another huge win on the road. It's important. Yes, it's against a bad Carolina team, but still, when you're able to blow out opponents, no matter how bad they are, on the road, that is very, very good. That's a good sign of a good team there. Um, but it still needs to. We still need to see it happen against a good team. Um, but they have a really, really solid run game matched up with a pretty good pass game with Dak Prescott. This is a pretty good spot for them. I think they've been at 7 for the last like 3 or 4 weeks now, which kind of makes sense. They're not leading their division, obviously, but yeah, very very solid year so far from Dallas. It's just a matter of can we see them actually take that step forward that they've needed to for a while with this core that they have.
Yeah, they're definitely taking some steps forward here, um, but still got a lot to prove as well, especially when the playoffs come around.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the playoffs with them. Obviously, I don't think they're going to win their division. I think Philly's got that wrapped up. But they'll definitely be a wild card team, so it'll be interesting to say the least. The Dolphins stay at number 6, so that bottom 5 here in this top 10 stay the exact same so far. It was a gritty win for them, low scoring game, which we don't see that at home from them very often at all this year. They stay undefeated at home. They're now 5-0 at home. Tyreek and Tua, man, just they they still have their thing going on. They're just they just mesh so well together. Um, but there was a scary moment in the game with Tyreek where he left the game for a while, but um, he returned later, so it ended up working out just well for him. But yeah, man, Miami, they still have a lot of questions about how they play on the road, but right now at home, man, they're still undefeated, and that's all that really matters for them.
Yeah, you know, I think the Dolphins. I was definitely a lot higher on them the first couple weeks of the season. I still like them a lot. I still think that they have a good shot in the playoffs. I think they'll win the division as well. Um, but yeah, we'll see how they can do moving forward. They're really good at home. They just need to figure it out on the road, and also they have lost to some pretty good teams. Although losses have come to some top teams, so um, just figuring out how to beat the good teams is what they kind of have to look at moving forward.
It's not necessarily beating the good team. It's more just beating the good teams on the road. I mean, he just not winning on the road at all has not been good. I mean, they could have beat Kansas City if they played at home, but on the road, man, they just haven't looked that good. Dropping down 3 spots to number 5 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Finally, they are below the Lions, which I've been begging for forever. Um, Look, plain and simple, man. This offense has not looked good at all this year. I mean, they're one of the worst offensive producers in the league in terms of points. Um, but they played a close game with Philly. But yeah, no second half touchdowns again. I think you said what, third week in a row, something like that. Um, that said, if Valdez Scantling catches that ball, man, I think I think the Chiefs end up actually winning this game. But ultimately, it came down to that play. But you can't really say that because it is the NFL. There's other things you can do a lot better to win games. But they ultimately failed, and they lose yet again to. I mean, obviously, I think right now still the best team in football.
Yeah, the Chiefs definitely have to move down with how bad their offense has been, and yeah, they had a lot of other chances in the game to win, but you got to step up late, man, and they just have been struggling doing that. Can't generate any offense in the second half when you need it. Got to be able to play better.
Yeah, all around they just need to play a lot better. Moving up 1 spot to number 4, the San Francisco 49ers. Um, very impressive win over Tampa Bay, really hurting that team's hopes of winning that division. Brock Purdy looked really good. I still don't believe in him, man. I really don't. The defense looking really good again. The Chase Young addition, obviously huge for that defense. It was a very good game, and they've been a top 5 team all year. So yeah, I like this placement. I could probably see them ahead of the Lions if I'm being honest with you, but yeah, number 4, not gonna argue that.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Yeah, I guess you could argue a top spot, but the Lions being 8-2, that record definitely shows. Even though they, like I said, if you watch that Bears game and you knew, it's like, yeah, the Lions kind of got uh, a lucky win with that one, but they they definitely bounced back, the 49ers, and I think they're definitely for sure one of the top 5 teams in the league.
Yeah, that's for sure. Moving up one spot as well to number 3 is the Detroit Lions. Obviously, it was kind of a fluky win, if you want to say that, for Detroit. Like I said earlier, the Lions 3 years ago would have lost that game easily. But they turned a lot of things around. Obviously, 3 picks by Jared Goff. If you lose the turnover battle, you usually lose the games. Um, but the Lions ended up showing some resolve at the end. Big touchdown by JMO to put them within a touchdown. Um, just a solid game. Lions 8-2 for the first time since 1962, so it has been a very, very long time. 62 years since the Lions have been this good to start a season. Well deserved. I mean, they've won in so many different ways this year, blowing out close, gritty games, comeback now. But they should have never allowed Chicago to be even close to that game.
Yeah, definitely need to figure out how to improve moving forward because they have a lot of bad teams on their schedule, and everyone, including myself, thought this is an easy win. It's against Chicago at home. Should have been a nice, easy 20. I was thinking 20-point win, but no, Chicago dominated them all game. The offense, the defense needs to be better, and hopefully they can make the changes moving forward to where they can get those close wins while also playing well as well.
Yeah, the defense needs to make a lot of changes. They still struggling against mobile quarterbacks. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of concerning things about Detroit right now. A lot of good things too, but overall, man, that defense just needs to figure some things out. Also moving up one spot to number 2 is the Baltimore Ravens. Um, it was a nice win in this game this week for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson had a really good game. Odell Beckham Jr. had a really solid game as well. Um, it was just a very good win for Baltimore. I thought maybe they could probably end up blowing this one out, especially once Joe Burrow went down. But yeah, man, Baltimore might be one of the best teams in the league right now. They've been playing at such a high level lately, just blowing out team. It's just been incredible for them right now. Just team after team, they keep blowing out. That said, man, their defense has also looked really, really good. Much better than it did to start the year. Now they've just gotten healthier. But yeah, man, just a very good game for Baltimore, and deserved number 2 spot.
Yeah, they deserve that number 2 spot too. I think I know they had that heartbreaking loss last week, but they bounced back this week with the big win over Cincinnati, and I think that they are going to be really good moving forward. I think they got the number 1 seed right now in the AFC, so they have a lot to be grateful for right now with them being the top seed in the stronger conference. I think AFC is always had a lot of big hitters, man. So
Yeah, they extend their divisional lead, and they also extend their conference lead right now, and um, especially after Kansas City losing this week, it was very very good for them. And then staying at number one, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, huge win on the road in Arrowhead. It's hard to win there. It is one of the toughest environments to win in, and they went out and they dominated almost. The second half was pretty much all Philly. It was a defensive game, but they just looked really good. Jalen Hurts, who wasn't playing 100%, looked pretty damn good. DeAndre Swift had a good game. Um, it just ended up being a very solid game, very solid win for Philly.
yeah, it was a solid one. Um, they didn't play, completely great, but they played good enough, and they won the tough game against Kansas City.
Yeah, that they did. So that wraps up the NFL power ranking. So we're gonna now head over to college, and we had a pretty good week. A couple upsets in this, couple unexpected scores, but all around a pretty damn solid week. So let's get it started. Maryland hosted number 3 Michigan. And Michigan wins this 31-24. Look, Michigan looked kind of lost in this game, man. They couldn't pass. JJ didn't look good at all. Corum didn't play the greatest of games. The defense allowing Maryland to come back into this game in the second half. It was kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie, as a Michigan fan, it really was. It's just this Michigan team's struggling with Maryland. Not a good look.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think that Michigan will be all right for next week. I don't think they're really taking Maryland too seriously. And it was mainly in the second half. They had some pretty solid plays, especially on special teams I was seeing against Maryland, but definitely faltered a little bit. They definitely didn't play their best game, but I think that, like I said, they were more concerned with how they're going to be next week against Ohio State than they were this week against Maryland.
Yeah, maybe they were, but I don't know, man. It just did not look good, especially defensively. Number 8 Alabama hosted Chattanooga. Bama just blowing the doors off them, 66-10. Um, not a whole lot to talk about here. Milroe played actually pretty decently. He went 13 for 16 and just under 200 yards with 3 touchdowns. Um, Obviously, Chattanooga is not a team really anyone knows anything about. And they kind of proved that. It is Cupcake Week after all.
Yeah, it was Cupcake Week, all right, for the SEC. I mean, easy one. It's Chattanooga versus Alabama. Like, it's the varsity team versus the freshman team. Like, easy one.
It's more like the varsity team playing a bunch of fourth graders, but yeah. Nevertheless, Bama getting the W. Uh, Miami hosted Louisville. Louisville winning 38-31. Um, this was just pretty much a back and forth game. Came down to who had the ball last, and ended up being Louisville winning this game. Plummer for Louisville looked pretty solid, 308 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick in this game. On the opposite side, Van Dyke had a pretty damn good game as well for Miami in terms of passing. I thought Louisville would blow the doors off Miami. It ended up being just one of those back and forth games, and it was pretty entertaining to watch, to say the least.
Yeah, it definitely was. Another one that was um, um, closer here. Definitely a good watch here for the week. But Louisville pulling out the nice win here.
Number 12, Penn State hosted Rutgers. Penn State winning 27-6. Penn State's defense is elite. They continue to stay elite. Rutgers, I didn't expect them to win. They've already hit where I think where they wanted to, which was getting into a bowl game this year. I didn't think they'd come close to Penn State, and well, yeah, they proved it. The Penn State offense, did enough. Obviously, Rutgers' defense isn't the best, but neither's Penn State's offense. But yeah, Drew Aller 6 for 13, man. That's just a pathetic stat line. That's how you know your coach doesn't trust you at all when you only throw 13 passes in a game. Against the Rutgers defense that isn't the greatest against the pass, but it's pretty good against the run. They just don't trust you at all when you only throw 13 passes. But good win for Penn State, a needed win. They needed something here, and they ended up getting a pretty good victory out of it.
Yeah, it was a good win for Penn State. The offense looks horrible like usual, and the defense looked great. So, kind of just played into their strengths there.
Yeah, number 13, Ole Miss hosted UL Monroe.
Who the fuck is that guy?
It was just a good win for Ole Miss, 35-3 in this game. Not very impressive, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It's Cupcake Week. None of these wins are impressive.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Dart with a pretty solid game, 24 for 31, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Quinshon Judkins, man, he's been solid for Ole Miss this year, but he did not look that great this week. 18 for only 65 yards. Not a very good game from him, but overall, obviously just a nice win for Ole Miss against a team that nobody knows.
Yeah, it was a nice win. No one even knows who that team is, man.
Yeah, Cupcake Week is ridiculous. You'll never convince me otherwise. BYU hosted number 14 Oklahoma. BYU just falls short to Oklahoma, winning 31-24. Oklahoma had a 100-yard pick six in this game, which ended up making a big difference ultimately. It came down to really the last few possessions. It was tied going into the fourth quarter. I thought BYU could pull out the upset, but they ended up just falling short to Oklahoma, who didn't play a very good game at all on either side of the ball. But Oklahoma picking up another W.
Yeah, it was a nice W for Oklahoma after struggles the last few weeks. So they pick up the big W.
FAU hosted number 24 Tulane. Tulane wins 24-8. This was a nice win. Tulane had been struggling the last couple of weeks to generate anything on either side of the ball. They ended up playing really good on both sides of the ball. Pratt throwing 3 touchdowns, 250 yards. He looked really solid for Tulane. And defensively, man, they came up pretty damn big. They got an interception in this game. And FAU, I know they're not a good team at all, but nice win for Tulane here.
Yeah, it's a nice win for Tulane. FAU is not that great, but Tulane stays ranked with that nice win.
That they do. Number 17, Arizona, hosted number 22, Utah. I thought this was going to be a close game. It was not. Arizona wins 42-18. Arizona, they have been just killing everyone. It was, the first quarter was all Arizona. It was 21-7 at the end of the first quarter. And then you get, second quarter right away. First play of the second quarter, they win this. They get a touchdown again. It's 28-0 at this point. Utah just had no answer. Bryson Barnes did not look good at all. 31 for 53, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. And the turnover battle, man, just really killed Utah here.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I was looking at the scores, just like how bad Utah lost. I saw early on that Arizona took a big lead, and they pretty much never let up, man. Arizona's been one of the most underrated teams in college football this year.
Yeah, no, they weren't on anyone's radar. They weren't even on my radar, and they've just come out of nowhere, beating ranked team after ranked team after ranked team. It's been really fun to watch Arizona this year on this journey. Number 18, Tennessee hosted number 1, Georgia. Georgia winning 38-10. For a minute, I thought, first play of the game, it was 7
Yeah.
nothing Tennessee. I thought we're gonna have a game on our hands, and then it was all Georgia after that, man. Georgia winning this one 38-10. Just I thought, for a minute Tennessee gave me hope, and nope, they proved once again they are frauds. They got one fraudulent play to start the game, and yeah, just from there it was just all Georgia. And Carson Beck had a really spectacular game yet again, and that Georgia defense, man, still so good.
Yeah, this game was interesting, man. I put big money on Georgia. I look first play, it's like, geez, Tennessee already scored already, and then I'm like, well, hopefully Georgia doesn't choke this game, and then they ended up coming back. So I guess it was all good. I wanted to bet on the Michigan and Ohio State this weekend because I knew for sure they'd win their games, but just the odds were not good enough on what they were looking at, so I picked Georgia. So it was a good win for Georgia here, but yeah, Tennessee definitely kept it interesting at first, at least.
Yeah, at first, man, you're just like, ooh, this is gonna be a good game, and then just yeah. Iowa,
Fucking thing sucks!
number 16, Iowa hosted Illinois. Iowa winning 15-13. This offense just fucking awful. Their defense really good. They have one of the best defenses in the country, but there was a point where I thought Illinois would win this game, and then Iowa with a field goal kind of later in the game. No, it was a touchdown run later in the game with the extra point being blocked as well. Just shows you just how great blockers Iowa has. But yeah, it was a pretty horrible game to watch, man. Just Illinois is bad, and Iowa's offense just so awful. They end up with the W here.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to go and give any score to a college football game, and you were telling me 15-13, be like, yep, that was Iowa. It's just so crazy to see Iowa and how bad they are on offense. But they pull out these wins, so they're probably going to jump into the top 15, which is just crazy to see because, like, man, they can't even score 15 points of offense. Like, crazy.
Yeah, they barely scored 15 points in this game, and yeah, just awful. They fucking suck. Number 19, Notre Dame hosted Wake Forest. Notre Dame winning 45-7. Wake Forest, man, just a couple years ago, they were one of the top teams. Obviously, Hartman winning over his former team here. He had a really solid game. 277 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. Wake Forest, man, they just looked awful. They couldn't stop Notre Dame no matter what they did. And that offense just could not produce anything. Hartman loved beating his former team here.
Yeah, it was a nice revenge game for Hartman, and Notre Dame pulling out the big win here.
Clemson hosted number 20 North Carolina, who continues to slip. Clemson winning 31-20. I didn't think Clemson would be in this game at all. They're just so bad. But North Carolina, man, they just have not looked good at all lately. Drake
Yeah, I mean,
Drake May
yeah,
looked horrible, man. He really did.
he did. He looked bad, man, and that's tough to say, man, because he's gonna be a top pick in the draft. But it's tough to see here with his team just not doing that well.
Yeah, that offensive line might be the worst in Power 5 football. Like they might be worse than Michigan State's. That's how bad that offensive line is. Drake May is literally fighting for his life on every single fucking play, and it's just horrible. He's trying to do so much because his offensive line cannot protect him at all. But this defense did not look good against a pretty bad Clemson team, and they fall 31-20. Man, just not good. Number 2, Ohio State hosted Minnesota. Ohio State winning 37-3. Kyle McCord had a pretty solid game. He went 20 for 30. Travion Henderson, man, what a game from him. 146 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 15 carries here. Really, really solid game from him. This OSU running offense, man, they can move the ball. Travion Henderson might be one of the best running backs in the country as well.
Yeah, they were looking good, man. We'll have to see how that run game goes next week for Ohio State and Michigan. Read a pretty crazy stat about the run game in that matchup here. I'll get into that though when we talk about the matchup for next week.
Sounds good to me. Arizona State hosted number 6 Oregon. Oregon winning 49-13. Bo Nix, man, just incredible. Really, really solid game from him. 404 yards, 6 touchdowns, 24 for 29, man. That is an impressive stat line. I think right now he might be the Heisman favorite because, I mean, he's just a monster right now. And this Oregon defense, obviously it's Arizona State, but their defense looking really solid as well, man.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of Heisman lists, and he's at the top right now. It's pretty much a three-person race between him, Jaden Daniels of LSU, and Michael Penix of Washington. Those are like the 3 guys right now that have a shot to win it. But Bo Nix, man, he looks like the front runner right now. He's just been playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he's honestly incredible. Houston hosted number 23 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State getting a pretty solid win here, 43-30. Nice bounce back win from Oklahoma State. Obviously losing to getting blown out by UCF last week. This week they played a pretty solid game. I know Houston's not a very good team, but it was a much needed win from Oklahoma State. Nice bounce back, like I said. And, Bowman had a pretty solid game as well. He went 29 for 43, 348 yards. It was just a very solid game all around for Oklahoma State. Both sides of the ball were playing very well. There were some questions I had about that defense, especially after last week, but they answered a lot of them. Now, I know Houston's not a very good team, and they're a lot worse, I think, than UCF, but the defense really stepped up this week, I think.
Yeah, Oklahoma State definitely stepping up here after that crazy loss last week to UCF, so definitely needed to make a big statement there.
Number 4, Florida State hosted North Alabama.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Florida State winning 58-13. Yeah, look, it was cupcake week for FSU, I guess as well. They had Roadmaker in for Florida State. He had a pretty good game. He went 13 for 23 and 217 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. It was just a very good game for Florida State. They were down actually early in this game, 13-0, and then it was just they just took over from there. Keon Coleman had a very solid game for them as well. Sad Sparty noises for you, but yeah, man, just it was kind of funny to watch. It was 13-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then just from there it was just all Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State though they lost their QB. Jordan Travis is out for the rest of the year. They says so. Um, I mean, is that going to impact them moving forward here? Because I've been seeing a lot of people say this week that Washington's going to jump over them in the standings. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes, we will. Number 25, Kansas hosted number 21, Kansas State, and this was a really fun game to watch. I don't know if you watched it, but it was definitely one of the better of the two matchups that I'm about to talk about. I think this was the better of the two matchups, but Kansas State pulling off the W, 31-27. This was a pretty back and forth game, between these two teams. Ultimately, Kansas State pulling off the W, the fourth quarter touchdown, a little bit before halfway through the quarter. Very, very good game from Kansas State, and Kansas to that effect, but ultimately Kansas State getting the W here. That offense looked really, really good.
Yeah, Kansas State with the win. I knew it was going to be a nice big rivalry game with both these teams, and it definitely lives up to the hype. I didn't actually see any of this game live, but saw some of the score updates, and yeah, it was definitely a good game.
Very, very good game indeed. Oregon State, number 11. Oregon State hosted number 5, Washington. Washington barely winning this one, 22-20. If I'm being honest, man, this was a game Washington probably should have lost. They did not play a good game at all. Oregon State kept it, close the entire game. No second half points for Washington at all. Not a very good performance from them, but their defense held up against Oregon State, who just fell short in the end. Penix did not play his best game. He went 13 for 28, 162 yards. He just didn't look good. But neither did DJ Uiagalelei. He just did not look good at all. Both of them. Honestly, Uiagalelei throwing 2 interceptions in this game, and that ultimately sealed their fate, I think. You take away those 2 interceptions, you turn those into scores, and boom, Oregon State wins this game. This was not a game Washington should have won, but they got lucky winning it.
Yeah, similar to how the Lions were. Washington, they pull off the win. Definitely didn't play that great. Penix, this game definitely hurt his Heisman chances here. We'll see though how they do. I mean, even though they didn't win, they still won. Or even though they didn't win pretty, they still won, and it was against a number 11 teams, so they're definitely going to factor that in. I mean, that's another ranked win for them. So Washington continues to improve their resume with some of the wins they've had.
Yeah, they've looked really impressive. I know this wasn't a good win for them, but a win's a win is a win, especially against a ranked team. So good on them. Missouri had a very scary game here. Number 9, Missouri, hosting Florida, and it was looking like Florida might just win this game. It was 31-30 with a minute 36 left in favor of Florida here, and Missouri ends up just driving down the field within that minute and 36 seconds and kicked the last second 30-yard field goal to win the game. To be honest, man, this was just not a very good game for Missouri. I thought they would blow out Florida, who's been not impressive at all, who's on the brink of not being able to play in a bowl game this year, by the way. They're sitting 5-6 now after this loss. But Missouri finding a way to win, and they do, and they get a good game here. But just not a good game for Missouri defensively.
Yeah, Missouri definitely struggled in this one. Definitely not one of their most impressive performances, but they still come out with the win.
Yeah, just pretty impressive win still, but yeah. Number 7, Texas was on the road against Iowa State. Texas wins 26-16. They get a nice win here. Quinn Ewers played a pretty solid game, 23 for 33, 280 yards. Um, and the run game looked very solid. Well, C.J. Baxter had 117 yards, no touchdowns for him. Defensively, though, Texas's defense really stood up this game. Iowa State's offense is pretty good, and they held them only to 16 points. So a very, very solid win here for Texas.
Yeah, it was a solid win. Iowa State didn't play their best, and Texas comes out the win.
Yeah, they definitely get a nice win there for sure. And then lastly, LSU, number 15 in the country, hosted Georgia State.
Who the fuck is that guy?
LSU winning this one 56-14. Obviously Georgia State took a pretty early win, or not early win, early lead, 7-0 in the first quarter, and then pretty much from there it was just all LSU. Jaden Daniels had a very solid game as well, 413 yards, 25 for 30, and 6 touchdowns as well. He looked just like Bo Nix for the most part. But yeah, very, very impressive game for LSU. And Jaden Daniels also had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. He was literally a part of every single score in this game for LSU.
Yeah, cupcake week again for all the SEC teams, and they were able to pull out the nice easy win here, but definitely adds to his Heisman case.
Yeah, definitely adds to his Heisman case as well. But yeah, man, it's Georgia State, so I can't really look into that a whole lot. So that wraps up this weekend's slate of college football games. So we're going to get into the rankings now. They have been updated, and we have a change in the top 4. Washington is now at number 4. Florida State drops to number 5. Obviously, Washington, you said it best. They have been improving their resume. The top 3 stayed the same with Georgia, OSU, and Michigan all 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, Washington up to number 4, and Florida State down to number 5, and it's obviously deserved. Florida State's only good win this year really is LSU, and Washington has a bunch of ranked wins, so obviously it's much more deserved over Florida State. But the rest of the top 10 stayed the same. Louisville is at 10, Missouri at 9, Bama at 8, Texas at 7, and Oregon at 6. You could almost argue Oregon over Florida State at this point, but they do have a loss. So yeah. But we're gonna run through the rest of the top 25 real quick. You just stop me when there's a team you want to discuss here. Moving up 1 spot to 11's Penn State. Ole Miss went up 1 spot to number 12. Oklahoma went up 1 spot to 13. LSU went up 1 spot to 14. Arizona went up 2 spots to 15. I'm going to stop myself right there. Arizona has been absolutely incredible, just destroying ranked team after ranked team after ranked team. Honestly, I'd put them over LSU because LSU doesn't have as many impressive wins as Arizona, I think. And I also don't think they have nearly as impressive losses either. I mean, Arizona, held on for dear life against USC's offense and just fell short. So I would probably swap those two, but that's my only argument so far. Going down 5 spots to 16's Oregon State. Iowa actually dropped to number 17, even despite their win. They shouldn't be ranked. I mean, they can't even put up 15 points, man. Let alone their ranking number at 17. They can't even come close to that. Notre Dame went up a spot to 18. Kansas State went up 2 spots to 19. Oklahoma State went up 3 spots to 20. Not a lot of arguments here. I'd put Notre Dame over Iowa. I know Iowa tactically has the better record, but Notre Dame can actually put up points. So yeah, I'd probably put. I wouldn't even rank Iowa if I'm being honest with you, but it is what it is there. And then your bottom five, you have Tennessee dropped 3 spots. NC State wasn't ranked. They're at 22. Tulane went up 1 spot to 23. And now Clemson's ranked yet again. They're at number 24. And Liberty, 11-0, and they're at number 25. I know they don't have a lot of impressive wins. I think their best win is Western Kentucky. But they are undefeated, and they've been blowing out teams. I can't really argue them to be over Clemson because Clemson obviously beat North Carolina. So, yeah, any thoughts on any of these teams?
Yeah, so who was the last team again that's undefeated? Was it, you said Liberty?
Yeah, it's Liberty.
Bro, come on now. If they were to play anyone in the top 25, even Iowa, they would get their ass kicked.
I don't know about Iowa. I don't know about Iowa. I think they would beat Iowa. But anyone else, yeah, they'll probably lose.
Yeah. I mean, I know they're 11-0, but, I mean, they're playing nobodies.
Yeah, they beat UMass this week. They beat Old Dominion the week before, Louisiana Tech before that, Western Kentucky, MTSU, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston, FIU, Buffalo, New Mexico State, and Bowling Green. Yeah, nothing impressive, but they are undefeated, so you got to give some credit to that, I guess. But when you play basically a Division II schedule, it's not that impressive to me. But yeah, so that is your rankings. I think obviously we all saw it coming. Washington up to number 4. Look, if I'm being honest, man, I'd still probably put FSU and Washington in over Michigan. Just Michigan has not been impressive to me, and I'm saying this as a Michigan fan. Obviously, their best win is only Penn State, but still, man, just struggling against Maryland, and then just, yeah, man, I don't know. But Washington, obviously, they have a much better resume than Michigan, so I don't see why Washington's even at number 4 and not at number 3 over Michigan, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, yeah, Michigan hasn't played. They've only played Penn State. That's basically the only competition they've had. But, I mean, they definitely got to market this Ohio State-Michigan game for, as high as they can make it.
Yeah, I just wonder what's going to change in those rankings after this week. I mean, obviously, if Michigan wins, where does OSU fall? And then on the opposite end, how far down does Michigan fall if they lose? Because obviously they don't have impressive wins, and then they lost to Ohio State. So you'd think, maybe still be on the fringe of a top 10 team, but I don't know, man. But we'll get into that a lot more. Obviously, the big game is this weekend, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. But overall, man, yeah, that is your college football rankings. Real quick, we'll just for the rest of our local viewers, real quick, go over the Michigan State game from this weekend. They pull off the W on the road against Indiana. Both these teams went into this game 3-7. Michigan State pulls off the W 24-21. If you're a Michigan State fan, you have to be kind of happy with that result. Caden Hauser didn't play the greatest of games. He went 25 for 39. He did throw 3 touchdowns. He also threw 2 picks. But it was a pretty good win, pretty impressive win from behind as well to win this game for Sparty.
Yeah, I called it in the matchups. I was like, man, they're going to beat Indiana. They're going to beat Indiana, so it was a nice win for them. I mean, they haven't been impressive at all this year, so at least they were able to somewhat get a respectable win. I mean, Indiana's not good, but at least it's a known school, so yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Indiana, it's a known school. They're not good, but yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that as if you're a Sparty fan, anyways, a nice win over not a good team, but a team that at least people know who they are. So that's gonna wrap up this episode. Thursday we're gonna obviously do reviews, and I'm and we're going to do power rankings as well for the NHL and the NBA as well. So yeah, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know, what you want to see from this podcast. We got a lot of things planned coming up. A couple things that we're kind of working on, behind the scenes, which we're not gonna say anything about till we can actually see if we can even get these things done. But hopefully, if we get it to happen, this will help the podcast out a lot. But that said, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.